This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Yeah, no, it was probably both, like early on, because I like right from the very beginning, I was talking, like speaking out about that stuff right from the very, very beginning. And I think a lot of people were legitimately scared and worried about it. And they thought I was just being a jerk and like stupid and a science denier and a, plague rat, all that stuff. And so I think a lot of people unfollowed me. And then, the more that you get kind of like down promoted and like shadow banned and stuff, like algorithmically, you just show up less and less. And then I think people start going through and they're like, cause my MO before that was like positive content, right? Like motivation, inspiration and stuff like that. And then it was kind of like, hey, this is bullcrap. And I think so it kind of probably turned some people off. And I had a lot of like international followers, which was weird because I used to I grew my following in like the 2014, 2015 days when you could like hashtag stuff and then people would follow the content based on hashtags. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was voluntarily unfollowing and then a lot of it was, just getting demoted.
Were you able to like monetize it?
So dude, funny story. Like I actually got really into social media because of like Gary Vaynerchuk. When I was running my prior business, one of the things that I was growing was I grew a social media digital marketing agency. And at the height of it, I actually I'd learned kind of the Gary V stuff. I got hired as a paid influencer through VaynerMedia, through Gary's company, to do some paid promoted posts. And it was like, that was kind of the end of it for me. That was like, hey, I've made it. I'm an influencer. I got paid real dollars to paid promote. It was for Dove. You can still go on my Instagram, like back early days. It was like Dove's Men Healthcare for Father's Day. And I got paid $1,000 for 2 posts from Gary Vaynerchuk's agency. And then pretty much after that, I lost all interest in social media as far as like trying to grow and do the influencing, trying to just how time consuming and how like mentally draining it was. Yeah. I kind of like really stopped paying attention. And then when I started using it again was during COVID. And then it was like straight to the bottom, right? Like demonetize this guy right away.
Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, our social media channels here in the United States of America were very against anti-COVID banter.
For some reason. Yeah. For some reason. Yeah. I don't know. I was early on that. Just smelled weird to me from the very, very, very beginning. Yeah. So I had to do what I could to combat a little bit of that, but I paid the price, but it was worth it.
I'll tell you, I'm shocked at how compliant our country was. Like, here's a vaccine, slam it in your arm. By the way, I got the vaccine, which I'm not happy about. But
which one did you get? Both of them? You got the 1 and 2 and
Pfizer
a booster?
1 and 2. No, not a booster.
You were like, I'm out on that.
No, my NBA clients were all required it. Can't go in the building, right? And then the NCAA tournament stuff we do also require it, right? And it was right when I was building that business and I had sunk a lot of money into this business and it was small still. So it was management ran and operated, meaning me and my partner and a couple other guys. And then I had listened to, this is why I stopped listening to the news. I listened to a news article or a news thing saying that Delta and United and one of the other ones was going to actually require it to fly. And at that time in my life, I was flying a shit ton. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, screw it. If you're going to make me get it, you're going to make me get it. I'm in a much stronger financial position now where I could just give them the bird, but I wasn't. And then I was inevitably pissed that I didn't actually need to get it. I didn't really need to go through any of that bullshit. The NBA stuff we have a lot of NBA clients now, so I don't know how that would have panned out if I would have just said no, but yeah. I actually told the second lady, when I got my second shot, I told the lady, I said, I'll give you $100 if you shoot that on the floor. And I think she hit my bone. She buried it so deep in my shoulder, right?
She's like, forget this guy. It's going all the way in. I'm going to aspirate this guy.
So, but yeah, so that was my thing. But I mean, I agree with all of it. I think it's bullshit. I think, where'd the ventilators go? No one's talking about ventilators. You know?
Yeah, dude, I didn't know we were gonna get into COVID because I mean, I could literally talk on that for days and days and days. It's funny because just on the way down here, I was listening to Joe Rogan's Alex Berenson podcast, and you know, those are two guys that, you know, what's been really interesting to me about COVID and the pandemic was it was actually a huge blessing for me, you know, in hindsight. And I talk about this a lot, but the pandemic acted like a major hurricane for me in my life. And it basically like tore down everything that I thought I believed in, or everything that I did believe in, and it decimated everything, right? Like my belief system in politics, why I believe anything, what I do, you know, church issues, religion, the government, corporations, physical healthcare, anything like that. It like reset everything and made me challenge why I do anything, why I believe anything, you know? And when you talked about how compliant our country was, I think that most people just never took that opportunity. And I think most people don't. They outsource. They're completely willing to outsource all of their effort and their thoughts to somebody else, right? They don't want to have to go through these deep processes of challenging their beliefs. It's just much more easier for them to outsource their belief system to something else, to a government, to a political party, to a religion, to a corporation, a company, and just, you know, trust and just kind of go about their day. But for me, it had the complete opposite effect, right? It like took everything down to ground zero and gave me an opportunity to rebuild everything that I believed in, including like, you know, my relationship with my family, how important my relationships were, what I was spending my time doing, you know, what I believed in, why, who I trusted and why in like politics, who was looking out for me. And by just questioning everything, you know, it's common to say like you were red pilled, you know, I was kind of already pretty red pilled on everything before that, but it just really made me from the very beginning kind of question the motives of everything that was going on. So I was in a unique position, I feel like, to kind of be there and question it. So I wasn't willing to comply with any of it.
Yeah. No, that's smart. And what you're saying is 100% true. I mean, I think everyone went through that at a certain level, and more of us more than others, right? And mine was, and it's a good way to be. And that's really my point with what you're saying there is you need to question everything. You know, it's absolutely insane to give your thoughts over to somebody else to have for you. And it's weird to me that people don't think that. I mean, my own sister, bro, she's still pro everything that had to do with COVID. The government will never hurt us. And I'm like, I don't know how blind you can be. There's not a damn person in the government I trust. I don't trust the post office grandmaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, and I don't really know how people got to that point, and especially people who continue to trust it now. I'm sitting here, it just became very obvious to me, and nothing really smelled right from the very beginning. And I don't really know. I was actually thinking about that yesterday of why. Well, I know why I was in that state of mind to kind of like not really buy and question everything. But it's amazing to me that more people aren't willing to do so. And I think they're caught in their own ego, right? And they don't want to be like, it's rare for somebody to say, I wish I wouldn't have got vaccinated. Yeah. Right. Like, I mean, you had a completely rational reason. Oh, I trust it's not that big of a deal or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But you probably, I don't know if you have health issues or like why, or if you're worried about health issues coming up as a potential result, or more of just like, I didn't really need it, but I got convinced or coerced otherwise. And I outsourced my decision-making and doing something I didn't want to do. Yeah. So it's rare for people to admit that they, you know, didn't kind of got the wool pulled over their eyes a little bit.
Well, there's still people freaking, we're in like our 15th booster.
Dude, sprint out there. We're dealing with the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift fiasco with the convenient relationship that just so happened that he became the new poster boy of the double boost variant. Now you can get your COVID shot and flu shot at the same time.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what the new commercial, the whole commercial for the whole NFL, Travis Kelce's showing his Pfizer. Dude, you're going to get censored on this episode now. The Travis Kelce, get your flu shot and your Pfizer COVID shot at the same time, 2 for 1. They've never, what safety studies do we have on that? What, what need do we have on that? What variants, what studies, whatever, but it's out there. It'll be with us for the rest of all time. We'll be able to get not just one flu, but 2 flu shots every year forever now.
Man, you want to say it was about money, but it's got to be something else, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, we could go deep down the rabbit hole.
Well, they're about to take Russell Brand out and shoot him behind the freaking barn. He got real voice. He got really vocal about this, last 6 months. And dude, they're sex allegation charges. It's like,
yeah,
this
man,
is the biggest
it's
bullshit.
Interesting because, you got him, you've got in our local, we got Tim Ballard in our local ecosystem, the OUR guy. You've got, who's the other, Andrew Tate, all these guys that end up speaking, kind of talking about this global new world order or whatever. All of a sudden it's, now they've got sex crime allegations. They're getting Me Too'd, and it's just hard to know, what the truth is. And to be honest, that's the point, right? It's an unfortunate world that we live in right now where you just don't really know what you can believe. And so it's hard to not be like nihilistic or be, really distrustful of everything because you just don't know what to believe, Well, I'm a man of action. For most of my life, I've thought I can affect something, right? And quite frankly, in my world, I can affect a lot of stuff, And through COVID, I've really given up on that America can progress further. I really think we're on the backside. Ian had a podcast about it. I was talking to someone, and they're like, well, how do you think America's going to get better? And I'm like, it's not. We're in the decline. It's too far gone. And I actually hate saying that because it seems Are we
really
going to talk
negative.
about the Roman Empire now? Like
yeah, we should go to the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to be as good as the Roman Empire.
Yeah,
I'll
that
tell you
TikTok,
that.
TikTok trend, right? Like my family got, my wife and did that to me. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe like once a week, actually probably every day, and they're like, what?
I know. I think about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
too.
I agree with you. I mean, it's going to take a while, but yeah, we're for sure on the decline.
We'll most likely be dead before it's,
yeah,
Swiss cheese over here, but like, we're on the way down. We can't, this is the thing I said in this podcast, so this other thing, and I don't know why this offends people. We can't even figure out what gender we are.
Yeah.
And that's not transgender hate. Mm-hmm. It actually really has nothing to do with them. It's the bullshit fringe stuff where people just live and die in the media and they create these fake fights and this fake division, this fake tension, all the way down to racism. Dude, everyone's racist nationally. No one's racist in their own community. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why can we not see this?
Yeah.
I really believe that the racism problems in our country are less than 1%. Data proves it.
I don't even think it's that. Like true.
Yeah, like racism. Actual, like full on racism. Mm-hmm. And then they throw bullshit out there like systemic racism. And it's like, do we know what these words mean? People just say words. They combine 2 words together, think that they're some hot take. It's like, what in the system is actually racist? Yeah. Give it to me.
Yeah, no, not to get too pessimistic or whatever, but you can, there's definitely forces at work and that want everybody to be confused. They want everybody to be hopeless. They want everybody to just be, under control, and kind of looping it back to what we kind of started talking about was, I got caught up a little bit in the pandemic stuff and like kind of speaking out about how stupid it was. And, a couple of our friends, and Jimmy is one of them, was like, hey man, this is really upsetting you. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's upsetting me. And it still upsets me. And I got a lot of anger and a lot of like trauma about it, but not for me personally. Like, it's cause I see what's going on and you want to like call it out, right? And you want to like yell at people going, do you not see what's going on? Do you not see that they're trying to divide everybody? They want everybody weak, stupid, divided, hopeless. Like, come on. Yeah. And it's hard to not get down on it. But like you said, we are in control, dude. I'm happier than I've ever been. I was happier in COVID. Like, I was happy the year of lockdown. I had spent a lot of quality time with my family. I reevaluated everything in my life. I've never been happier, and we can control it, right? Like, we can control how we feel, and we can, we're men of action. We're leaders in our family. We're leaders in the community, and that's what we can control, and we can make a difference, right? So no, I can't go change the new world order, and I can't go, prevent the next pandemic, COVID 2024 from coming out, or stop the global, climate change crisis manipulation going on or whatever. But what I can control is I can control how I raise my kids. I can control the man I am. I can control the conversations that we have. I can control my leadership and my local influence, and that can have a broader effect, which is, what you and I are both about.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly where I was going to go, because it's like, we kind of talked about the negative. It's like, where's the positive in this? And it's like that I am in control, that I'm not giving that control up to anybody else. And I'm going to live the best life that I possibly can in my rules, the way I want to live it. I've said a few times to people, they're like, well, what's your plan? To make enough money to make an appropriate amount of money that I can do whatever the hell I want with, and then enjoy the rest of my life.
Escape velocity, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need to answer to anybody.
Yeah, man. And you look at like what happens when to some of these guys, that we talked about earlier, like a Joe Rogan or an Elon Musk. And once they've kind of achieved that, like I have, unlimited money essentially for what I need, or I'm set up, I'm not beholden on anything. I can say what I want. I can speak what I want. I don't need to worry about, I don't have to worry if I'm going to go get vaccinated because I'm not going to get into this facility or whatever. I can say whatever I want because you're not going to be able to destroy me financially or otherwise. It's kind of given a lot of those guys. That's why it's so important to be sovereign, right? And for what you just talked about, for you to be able to become financially free, where you're not, beholden or obligated to anybody else other than yourself. So you can live the way you want to do. And you don't have to outsource any of that to anybody else.
Right. Right. It's actually super important. To me, it's almost like original American values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the rugged individualism in a different way, right? It's the modern day version of leaving the city and going out and being a pioneer and going and starting your own settlement so you can, disconnect from, having to be interconnected to all that. It's the modern day version of that, right? Yeah. You got to be able to set yourself up in a situation financially and freedom wise to where, you can be insulated from a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And really protect your kids. Because the only way that you could fix this is to protect the kids. Raise them, teach them, make them producing members of society. See, I see the people that bitch, that have it all wrong, they're always screwed up, that, they don't contribute to society on any level, ever. I was watching this thing today, it might have been on YouTube Shorts or something, and this guy was basically like, do you love America? She's like, I love America. Oh, and the guy goes, well, how do you contribute to America? This lady's like 50, right? Uh-huh. She goes, oh, I contribute all the time. Can I tell you all the ways I contribute? She goes, I have protested, and she starts listing all these things she's protested. And it was this aha moment for me where I was like, bitch, that does nothing.
Yeah.
You haven't done anything. Protest is an absolute charade. Did you change what was going to happen? Well, hell no. I've been protesting climate change for 14 years. You can't protest the sun. I hate to break it to you, And I'm like, we have this twisted mentality in America that contributing to society is like protesting and being mad and doing all these stupid things. It's like, no, it's actually building.
Yeah.
What have you built? Have you helped build a school? Have you helped build a program? Have you helped build the community up? What have you actually done inside this community to make it better? Protesting is not making it better.
Yeah, man. There's basically two ways to make a difference. We talked about the system, right? One, you got to either put yourself in a room with the people who can make a difference, right? Collectively. And the only other reason to do it is by doing things like this, changing the culture, right? Changing the messaging around it, promoting an alternative message and value system and hope and structure that functions as a counter. Because one of the cool things that I think is going on right now, and I don't know, we live in basically the same area. Even my brother's neighborhood, we live 3 miles apart. Yeah. But one of the cool things I see like the younger kids almost kind of rejecting the way things have been the past 10 or 15 years. And I see a lot of these younger kids that are at my house and hanging out and in our community, and they're going back to a lot of the, I want to go fishing, I want to go hunting, they're embracing some of these more traditional values. And what we need to do is promote an alternative culture and tradition that functions superiorly and give people a choice, right? Because you can't force it one way or the other. And if we turn into this, my brother and I joke about it all the time. If we turn into a lot of these science fiction movies are our very near future, right? I mean, we are like in the early stages of Ready Player One, where, half the world is going to live on UBI in the stacks playing video games all the time in their virtual fake worlds where they're the king of their own little digital kingdom and literally slaves to a system. I mean, we are on that doorstep, right? And the only way that we are going to be able to overcome that is by guys like us and people out there in the communities providing an alternative vision, right? A real world version of hope that people can look to and choose and be like, hey, no, I want that. We're going to build that. We're going to focus on that versus, essentially being under control.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't get why people don't feel it. There's $1.8 trillion in student loans, unbankruptable, massive interest rates, and these people yap about freedom. I'm like, you're a slave. You're 100%
ties your Social Security. Yeah, ties your Social Security.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, right. You're paying that back one way or the other. And then they get sold this dream of, we're just gonna, we're gonna go forgive that.
That's a massive tax bill.
Yeah, it's a massive tax bill.
I had a friend, dude. We were talking about this, and I was like, he's got massive student loans, massive. Like, I mean, 400,000 plus probably now. I don't really know because COVID paused it for a minute, which I'm like, holy shit, how much worse can we make this financial situation? Yeah. But he told me one. He goes, yeah, dude, I'm going to get off of. This gets forgiven at the end, and I go, well, how does that look? And he goes, well, you have to pay a little bit of a tax, and then blah blah blah. And I go, hold on, wait, is this like an investment? Is this like, are you getting a 1099 basically from the government? And the more we were talking about it, of course, he had no clue, right? Because he didn't teach a damn business class, and nor did he give a shit, right? And I was like, So I looked up the programs, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is just like any other investment. The government's taking a loss on you. You're taking that's income, basically. For anyone that doesn't understand what that means is when these student loans get forgiven at $500,000, these people are going to get a freaking income statement from the government saying, hey, we took a loss, you took a gain, now you owe taxes on this. And the wild thing was, it'll be almost the exact amount that he originally took out. But it's going to be in a 10-year amortized loan because now it's in the IRS's hands, also unbankruptable, at whatever interest rate they put on it.
The money's going to get paid one way or the other. Yeah, someone's got to pay that bill.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be you in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Well, my favorite thing was when Biden, was running for president. This just showed me how stupid people are. Mm-hmm. He goes, I'm going to forgive student loans. Just blanket. And everyone's like, yay. And he got all these votes for that. And it's like, he doesn't have the power to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of people, I ask this all the time, right? Like, how are people really that stupid?
Yeah.
Or how do they not care? How do they not see this? How are they not able to objectively look at this and see what's going on? And the reality is most people just don't care. And they're so apathetic that they are fine with what's going on. And you just look at that with, I mean, not to be political, but I mean, you can't tell me that the literal Walking Dead corpse in office, anybody can really be happy with that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you objectively be stoked with what's going on? Like, what has he actually done? Is he actually a good leader? Is he physically capable? No, the answer, and people just don't care. They're just going to vote for an ideology one way or the other, and there's just huge apathy. People don't want to actually, like we were talking about earlier, they want to just outsource everything to some belief system, some party, and they don't know. And the reality is they just don't care, right? Like, they're just going to go through their day. Most people are just trying, what's on TV? What do I got to do to get through my job for the day? What do I need to do so I just have, I have enough to pay for my food and my rent, my internet bill, and a little bit of food and a little bit of fun sometimes. And I got all the entertainment I need on my phone. I can play my video games. I can watch my porn. I can watch my TV, whatever I need to do. I just don't care. And the apathy of so many of and that's why when you said we're on the decline of the Roman Empire, the American Empire, that's the only reason why, like, as much of a patriot as I am, why I'm willing to kind of concede that, because there's so many people that are apathetic, right? They just don't care. They can see what's going on. They don't even care enough to care.
No,
and that, from that standpoint, it's really sad. And so I go, well, what can we offer as an alternative vision for people to care. And that's what I think is the important thing for us to work on.
Well, and you want to know the best person where that vision should come from? The President of the United States of America. It's the only thing that would unify us. But you're right. We have a corpse, And he, by the way, he's been a shitty politician his entire career.
Yeah.
But we are in this wild pendulum swinging moment, right? Because we had George Bush. And I think that's where it really kind of got wild, rather than it was just like the next president swing. I mean, if we don't have Obama, we don't have Trump.
Yeah.
Not happening. We don't have Trump, we're not having Biden. And it's like, we got to stop the pendulum from swinging. Like, it is crazy. But I mean, make America great again. Like, okay, that was fine, and I was actually a Trump supporter. Build back America. Is that the new slogan?
Keep America great. Yeah. Go back.
Is that Biden's?
No, that's Trump's. Keep America great.
His new.
I think it's like the 2.0.
Yeah.
Or Build Back Better was Biden's.
Build Back Better.
It's like after the pandemic or whatever. Go ahead.
I listen to these people and I'm like, it just makes me crazy. I'm in my house and I'm like, this means nothing. This means absolutely nothing. And most of the time it does. The other thing that our country gets wildly wrong is that they vote the president in based on what he cares about social
popularity
issues.
Contest almost, yeah.
Well, it's social issues, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, you can take the gay thing, you can take the what, I mean, just pick one. It doesn't matter. Christian this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, they don't care about you. The federal government doesn't care about you. One of my best friends, he'll laugh when he hears this, right? Him and I got in this massive argument over this because I'm like, the federal government doesn't give two shits about you. It doesn't care about you. It is to tax and grow. That is it. Every program inside of the federal government is to keep itself alive, right? And he's like, no, I mean, people need love. And, he's kind of going on this whole thing, right? I'll give him a lot of grace because he loves people, right? He's a very big-hearted man.
I can guess who this is.
Yeah. You know exactly who this is.
Yeah.
And we get into this, and I'm like, listen, if the federal government cared about gay people and gay marriage, they would pass a law.
Yeah.
They can do it in 2 seconds. It has nothing to do with the president. He doesn't pass laws. Congress could get together day one and be like, hey, guys, before we do anything, let's make sure everyone can get married. 1-page bill, pass it. It's done. What do they actually do? They kick it to the Supreme Court. All social issues get kicked to the Supreme Court. Do we know why? Yes, because it's going to outlast the president. It's going to sit in there for 10 years before they actually do anything. And most of the time, what does the Supreme Court do? Punt it back. They're not going to make a ruling on that.
For precedents, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I think I'm even more cynical than you are because I really, truly believe that both parties, it's two sides of the same coin. You know what I mean? I just think that the real power players get it coming and going, right? And like the sides just kind of flip. If you look at what was a liberal is now a conservative, a lot of the same policies and ideas, right? Like conservatives have become the party of anti-war, and now the liberals are the ones that are, wanted to pull out of Afghanistan, and now they want to fund this eternal war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, that was literally the exact same thing that liberals and Democrats were criticizing the Bush administration for. It doesn't really matter. Both sides are beholden to these political special interests, and there's really only a handful, a collective of the real power brokers in the world that control it. And they make the money both ways, and they don't really care who's in charge, Republican or Democrat. And so I've just become so much more cynical. I don't even really care. Like I don't care.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
We vote either way. It's all the same.
Yeah. And what I care about, what I want to control is what I can influence, my local. And my hope is, I feel at the top, if I focus, you mentioned that you think the president should be the tone setter. I don't give a crap who the president is, really, to be honest with you, because I'm going to be happy and I'm going to be successful and I'm going to do well. When Obama was the president, when Trump was the president, when Biden's the president, I don't care. Yeah. And I can go around and look into our community, and guys like us that make up our community, and I go around to these community events, or I go to a rodeo or something like that, and I'm like, hey, we can preserve this and we can maintain it through what we can control. But it really takes that idea of ownership, of that rugged individualism, where we do that together, where we are the ones promoting those values that we want, the values of community, and we are the maintainers of that. Like, we're the standard bearers, right? And so people that are listening to this, I don't have to wait for Trump to come back in and ride in on his white horse or whatever and get with this sort of vengeance, because guess what? The system is set up to where he's not going to be able to do that anyway, right? It's just our bureaucracy, our government, there's just so much entanglement that we can't make that difference from the top down regardless. We've got to collectively do that from the bottom up and change things from, our community, our families, our friendships, and the people that we influence every day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think local government's the only one that really matters. I guess when I say that about the president, my point is like if we had a good president and he was actually pushing a vision with our citizens, that would be one of the better platforms to be on. But I agree with you in the fact that the president actually doesn't matter.
Yeah, do you think
because if it did matter, we would be in deep shit.
Yeah, do you think that it's possible for a truly, because Trump obviously was not a system guy, right? He's obviously not part of the two sides of the same coin, and he somehow snuck by. He had a counter narrative and a counter vision that got him elected, and of course that upset the whole apple cart. That upset the whole system, the whole new world order. They had to bring out all the guns. They had to bring out everything, right? We had to unleash pandemics. We had to do whatever we could so we could mail in vote, so we could do whatever we can to get this guy out of there, right?
Yeah.
He was a true outsider. The problem is he's just kind of an a-hole, he is, and he just is an unlikable dude and really a megalomaniac and too egotistical to actually make true difference. But I do think that it's possible for a true good dude to make it through the system and get voted in as president. No. Because I don't. Yeah. No. I think that there's just they're not going to bless him. We have this two-party system and these power brokers that make the kingmakers, that make the puppets who are in control. And if you're not a puppet that's in control, if you're like a Trump, then you're the true outsider, and then the entire system is against you. And it's just so hard to change it. That's why I'm like, hey, I'm disconnected. I'm out on all that stuff. I really just want to focus on, my family, my influence. And so what do we do? You do this podcast. I do a podcast. I talk to these kids. I spend my time talking to the youth. We parent our kids. We teach our kids. We talk to fellow men. We go lead out in our communities. We go coach kids. We go do whatever we can to influence the spheres and the powers that we actually do have, right?
Yeah, 100%.
What do you do?
I affect every person that's in my ecosystem.
Yeah.
Positively. I help people build wealth. I help simplify that process for them so it seems easy, I try and correct inside my spheres, like our men's group, right? You're in the first group, I'm in the second group. I've kind of rose up as one of the leaders. I've voted in as one of the leaders in my group, right? Are you one of the leaders?
No.
Okay,
no.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
I would have guessed, but yeah, it's also hard. We voted like freaking month 3, right? So they picked me because I'm big.
Yeah, I don't even know how we did it because we were ahead of you guys, but
yeah.
I feel like I'm a leader even in our leadership group, right?
Well, you should be. It drives me nuts when any of these guys don't think they're a leader. I'm like, you're in the leadership group.
That's just it, right?
Yeah.
Like we are leaders and we need to be leaders in our community. But go on. You were talking about
so the men's group, right? I just feel like I pour into every one of these guys as much as I possibly can for the 2.5 years that we're doing this thing, right? Yours is rapidly coming to an end. Ours is only a year left, And then after that, it's like, hey, that was the time and season for that. Then I'm back to doing what I'm doing. Eventually, I like to support the community. I financially support the community. I show up to things for the community. I promote the community. Sometimes that's a little heavier focus on what my kids are into more than what I'm into. Mm-hmm. I think it's wildly important to be a very good neighbor.
Yeah.
All my neighbors.
Yeah, you're a great neighbor.
Yeah, I know all my neighbors, and I try my best to make sure they know that my place is a safe place. And, if kids come to my house, I make sure I know the parents know us. You know what I mean? Like, I like that great community. We do. Yeah. And your brother's part of that, He's a big part of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man, is our community. Like, I live in Lehigh, and one of the things that I love about Lehigh and why I've never wanted to ever move is I have never, this sounds like almost weird if someone's listening to this outside of one of our type of communities.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue with any of my kids ever going to another person's house or coming to another kid coming to our house of worrying about who they are. or like where they're at, what they're doing, and if they're like doing something that they shouldn't be, because our community in a whole as a general is so dang good that like I trust these other families and parents in our community. They trust us. And it's like, I've never had anything more than like maybe a phone call of like, hey, Ricky and, Cole got into a little bit of an argument and how do we work that out? And it's just such a testament to a good community, right? And that is so valuable. And that's what we're talking about, is building and maintaining those things, but we have a responsibility, you and I and anybody else listening to this, to be those leaders. Like, that's why you and I joined this We Are the They, right? I mean, that's essentially the message there. I love to donate my time, still in our church group. I have a calling where I get to interact with the men's group, and the young men. And I don't really care to do much in the church stuff, but I do love to be around those young men and be able to influence them and be able to embolden them to be the good young men and the leaders that we need. Right.
Yeah.
I love to coach football, same thing. And the only reason why I like to do that is I like to positively influence those boys' life, and see them growing up. And like you said, have my house be a place where it's a safe place for these kids to come and they can, learn, and I can have some sort of like influence over their lives, man. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's rewarding too. I think people get the reward system really mixed up in their lives, right? Like, I don't know, like what they need, what they want, it's very selfish. And it's like, no, dude, the more community things you do, the more your life is actually good.
Yeah.
You want your wife to have good friends. You want to have good friends. You want to have good couple friends that are friends with you. You know what I mean? Like there's outlets in this world and you have to pour into them. They don't just automatically come. I think one of the problems in our society here in Utah that I think has gotten way better over the years is people would get very into their church groups and they would expect church to push it all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of had fake friends, right?
Yeah.
Because you move from one ward to the next ward and you just, boom, you're in a different ward. You're not even talking to those people anymore. Instead of having like long-lasting lifetime friends as you kind of progress through life.
Yeah.
Right? And I really think that the culture in Utah is actually, tell me if you think the same, we've gotten a lot better with that. If you move from one community to the next, you still kind of hold those core friends and you kind of like almost making lifelong friends as long as your life dictates it.
Yeah, man. I mean, especially in relation to the LDS church aspect of it. I mean, I think there's been enough people that had a bad experience of that or heard horror stories of people where they don't want it to be like that, right? And I mean, you still hear that every once in a while, but I can't really ever say, like, I don't know what faith my kids friends are. Like, I don't ask them. They don't ask my, in general, don't ask. They're just good people. You just focus on being a good person. And growing up, you would hear those stories of like, well, little Ricky got excluded because he wasn't part of the church group. And so he got shunned and ostracized and nobody would talk to him. I mean, I feel like that's much, much better. Right.
Oh yeah.
Because guys like us are like, no, makes no sense,
Yeah.
But I do think that with relation to making these long-term relationships, yeah, man, I don't really care. I want to have good people. I don't really care who they are faith-wise or whatever. I want to just have good people in my life long-term, right? Like not just be reliant on a specific, church group or one entity in particular. Honestly, I think it's the same with our our men's group. One of the complaints that I get, I think a lot of people, it's such a good community that you can actually get caught up in only wanting to be friends with and only wanting to spend time with dudes that are part of the group because they get it. They're in the same mind space. You're doing some of the similar things. You're doing a lot of the similar work. And then it can almost be this like exclusive club a little bit. Sure. And I think we have a responsibility to, include others that, aren't a part of it, because we can have an influence on them. And it's just like any other thing. You don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to hang out with so-and-so because he's not a member of my church or whatever. Being a part of anything else, being exclusionary, I don't think benefits anything either. We gotta share our message, right?
Yeah.
Share our influence.
Yeah. And influence is interesting, right? I mean, leadership is basically based on how much influence you have. Mm-hmm. And being in a leadership men's group is interesting, because everyone's trying to be better and everyone's at different levels. But really, at the end of the day, it's like, how much influence do you have and what do you do with that influence? All the way to making money with it, right?
What do you think your attributes are as a leader of the group, or what do you think that you provide for those guys, particularly in your group?
I provide for them. I'm a safe space for a lot of them, right? So a lot of them who are going through things and need a friend, I've kind of stood up in front of our group and been like, guys, listen, you can be vulnerable with your wife, but don't ever be weak. It does you no good to stand up and just be a weak ass in front of your wife all the time. She'll stop respecting you, and that's when your freaking marriage will blow up, right? People don't blow up their marriages because of finances or affairs or any other stuff. They blow up because they stop respecting each other. And I've kind of pulled a real hard line with that. So then guys will kind of be like, well, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm for. Come tell me your bullshit, and I'll tell you what to tell your wife, what not to tell your wife, right? Or whatever, not really, but so I'm a good space for people to kind of lean on. Without it sounds arrogant, but I think people look at my life and are like, hey, he's living a good life.
No, that's not arrogant, dude. That's it. That's what I was going to say. Like, you're legitimate. You are what you say you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people see that and identify that, and that makes you a leader, right? They go, well, this guy, that's like a compliment. If anybody says like, hey, you're the person that you portray yourself to be. That's like the best compliment that I can ever get, right? Because there's so many fakers out there, or so many people that are like portraying themselves and their life as one thing, but then secretly there's like all this horrible stuff going on that they're just like glossing over or lying about. And that's just and it's so common, dude. It's so common that guys that are truly legitimate and authentic and in integrity like you are super rare, and it just naturally makes you a leader.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're 100% right. One thing that I found very interesting when we first started a men's group, right? So we go down to Moab, same thing you guys do. And, you do the circle where everyone kind of steps in on the stuff that they've committed or failed or whatever, right? And for people who don't know what that is, they would ask us, you take one step in and one step out if your answer is yes, right? If you cheated on your wife, boom, boom, right? Have you ever thought about suicide? Boom, boom. Have you thought about suicide in the last 7 days? Boom, boom. And it goes on for about an hour, hour and a half, and it's all sorts of questions. And it really breaks it down to make you feel like you're not alone. But then it also kind of I don't know, it's an interesting feeling. There's a little bit of a community, like everyone's going through stuff, and everyone has been through stuff, and everyone can fix stuff. And you've had an affair. I mean, and the funny thing too is you don't even remember who steps in, because you're kind of, once you step in, you're like, oh shit, it's kind of in me, and it's like an honesty, vulnerability moment, right? And after that, we were talking a lot, oh man, what'd you think about that? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh shit, did you step in on stuff? Yeah, I stepped in for a few things. Oh, wow, And really what the end of the day is, I remember guys being like, Mark, I like that you love your wife. I'm kind of drawn to you because, you'll bring your wife up, but it's never braggy, but I can tell that you love your wife. And I'm like, oh, okay. And by this next Ludus, 3 months later, you could kind of tell the dudes that were not having marriage problems were really kind of like, hey, let me get to know you a little bit better. Mm-hmm. Or what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And it became this massive theme in at least our group, that it was like, guys, we are dudes that love our wives, take care of our kids, and then everything else falls in after that. And it was really set a tone. And it was just a natural thing that happened. And I've had multiple guys in my group just be like, dude, the reason I like you, man, is because you're just a dude that just loves his wife. And I can just tell you're into your kids, and that's what I want to be. And so when you kind of start emulating those things, it's like, yeah, let's check that off the list, and then he's had some success in business. He's had some success in physical fitness. And, you kind of start going down this list, and we're all trying to get better at the same time, so I've definitely worked on things and gotten better over the last, year and a half of my life. But yeah, I found it very interesting that because the world kind of wants to beat that out of men, right? Mm-hmm. And women. Do whatever you want. Do what makes you happy. If you're not happy, get out of that marriage. If you're not happy with that, bounce over here. Have sex with tons of people, and that's very fulfilling. And really, it's that's kind of all a lie.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that you nailed it on the head. You hit it on the head, right? If you want to influence the world and the community, there's no better way and more important way for us than to be a good father and a good husband.
Yeah.
And, it is a little bit surprising to me to find out how difficult that is for some guys, right? Because a lot of, same as you, a lot of people will say, hey, you know, you've been a good husband. And after that step in the circle activity, one of my takeaways, as funny as it was I was like, man, I am one boring loser. Like I have not screwed up my life near enough and made enough bad decisions to where I'm interesting. Like I'm such a square dude.
There's
like,
always time.
Yeah. You know, yeah. Right. But I was like, you are one pathetic loser. You know, you never cheated on your wife. Like you never went bankrupt. You never did. You never were a drug addict, you know? And I'm sitting there going, all these other guys have overcome so much. But there's two ways to do it, right? Like failure is not a prerequisite to success. Oh. And I'm always amazed that when people are like, hey, you're a good, it's been easy for me to be a faithful husband, right? It's been easy for me to be a good father because that comes so naturally to me because I love my kids and I love my wife and I will do anything for them, right? Like it's not hard for me to choose spending time with my kids or like going home from work early to go coach my kids or to go spend time or whatever, because I love them and I will do anything for that, you know? And I think that's very natural for me because I had a good father and a good upbringing. And I'm sure yours is the exact same way. And some guys don't have that and they recognize that in other fathers and other husbands. And they're like, oh, okay. So I think that's one of the biggest ways that we can actually influence the world in a positive way for men, at least, and for women, you know, to be good mothers, good, you know, be there for your kids, love them unconditionally. And I'm sure it's the same for you, but I don't have to ask myself all the time, like, do I want to prioritize my kids? At some point in my life, it became very obvious that and in fact, I can tell you the exact moment that kind of like question never left my mind for good. And I never had to wonder ever again if I was going to spend extra time at work or building the empire or whatever. I was going to spend time with my kids. I have that moment of clarity, very clear. Oh. But just like you know, being a good father and being a good leader and being a good example, even to other guys who have normally, you know, you might have a dude that's crushing it in business or whatever, but he might not be that great of a husband, or he might have some areas he needs to improve on in being a father. And I think that's the thing that we can do most for these guys, not just in our group, but in our communities, is really be those examples of the good fathers, right? Be the good examples of a good husband. And dude, I've noticed that for sure about you. And that's one of the things I love and admire about you is what a good husband you are, like how doting of a husband you are to Michelle and like how much of a, you know, posting about your kids, having your kids on a podcast and pouring into them. And it comes naturally, man. Yeah. Like you probably don't have to like talk yourself into.
I don't.
And you're always trying to get better, right? Like
I am. It's actually really hard. I also people ask us for marriage advice now, which we kind of find fun, right? Because it's like, I don't know, man. This is a complicated thing we've been building for 20 years. Also, not sure if we're the best at it, but it's interesting to like give people feedback. And one of the things that my wife and I have really realized about being a good marriage is it's like we feel like we're soulmates, but we would never say that because we feel like we built our relationship. You know what I mean? I just had a friend the other day. She's a girl. She's single. She asked me. She goes, "You believe in soulmates?" And I wrote back, "No." And she goes, "Yeah, I don't either. Why? But I thought you would say yes." And I'm like, and I just wrote back. I go, "Michelle and I have built every single thing that has to do with our relationship."
Yeah, same thing with me and my wife. Yeah,
yeah, you know.
But you're always trying to get better, right? Like even part of joining this men's group. Joining We Are Today, it's all about trying to get better in all areas of your life, right? Because if you're not focusing on growing, if you're not focusing on, it's going to decline naturally. That's just the way it is. Things aren't going to get to a certain level and stay there. And I'm sure you and your wife have probably gone through times that were not as great, you know, probably rougher.
You have to go through bad times. Like sometimes when I get in a fight with a friend or somebody, I'm always like, I mean, I don't like fighting with my friends, but like this will be a good thing at the end because if we remain friends after, it'll make us stronger. Yeah. Right. And if it breaks us up, whatever. But, you know, kind of going to what you're saying, like, the thing is funny, like we're always building, but at the same time, like I want to build so fast. And then sometimes when it's really good, I want to build faster, faster. And I feel like we're so close to a perfect relationship that like we fight over the dumbest shit. Like I feel like she doesn't explain things to me the way she would to like one of her friends. Right. And I feel like it's like a dig because other than I don't know her very well. And like, as well as I could, and she's not pouring into me. And
that's when you're feminine right there, Mark. Yeah.
Well, that's when you know that, like, well, a lot of the times I have to be like, babe, I'm sorry. I got to take a freaking step back. I don't know why the hell I'm like, she's like, I just don't feel like talking. I'm like, but I have this thing in my head where it's like, I will not let this relationship fail. Mm-hmm. I will not be the moron sitting idle while this relationship blows up because I'm not asking my wife about how her day was, or I'm not pouring into her when I need to pour into her, or when I recognize something I need to recognize, or I'm not letting her pour into me when she needs to pour into me. Like, I will not be asleep at the wheel. And I feel the exact same way about my kids. Like, I am not going to be sitting there being like, oh, my 16-year-old daughter got pregnant. I don't know how the hell that happened. Like,
yeah, man.
Be aware.
You have a good relationship with your kids, but you even like taught me, like, I don't know if you remember this post, but you posted about something you asked your kid at Goodwood.
Yeah.
You remember
Kevin
that?
Hart thing?
About like if he knew your middle name.
Yeah, it was Kevin Hart. Yeah.
Yeah. And your son was like, and you didn't know your middle name, right? And you kind of was like a little bit of a, like, oh my gosh, I got to like make sure. I read your post, dude. Yeah. I literally like walked out of my room and I like yelled down. I'm like, hey, do you guys know my middle name? You know?
Yeah.
And they did, but I was just like, there's always that reminder. And I'm sure you're like, oh, hey, I got to make sure that my kids know me on this level, and that you invest that time in those relationships, and like, I'm always in a state where I'm trying to get better. Anytime I have a thought, hey, I should have this conversation with my kids, I do it. As uncomfortable as it is, as awkward as it is. Like, if I think, hey, does my kid, do my kids know how much I love? And it's almost like I'll overdo it a little bit sometimes. I'm sure you're the same way. I'm like, hey, that like, I love you unconditionally. Like if whatever, if you're gay or whatever, like, I love you, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be like something big like that. It just can be something small, like.
No, you're evaluating the situation. You're like, they need to know everything.
Yeah. Like
will you please pause that game for a minute? I need to tell you how much I love you. They're like, all the time I do that.
This, right? Like, and I really admire that.
I'll tell you something about that post. That was a hard day. I had a hard day at work. There's like some things that weren't going right, blah, blah, blah. Then I went to the gym. And that was when I wasn't in the habit of going to the gym. And I like beat my ass at the gym. And then I was feeling guilty for going to the gym because I wasn't around my kids, because it's like, I'd rather sacrifice myself and be around them than to, just this whole like mess in my head. So I text my wife and I said, hey, where you at? Because I went to the gym like 7 o'clock at night. So she's like, oh, we're out and about. I'm like, you ate dinner? Yeah. She's like, we're about to, and I go, meet me at Goodwood. I want to be with the kids. I don't want you to cook. Like, let's just go out. I just want to spend time with the family. She's like, okay, great. She always supports me whenever I feel like that, so it's like 9 o'clock, or normally our kids are in bed. We go to Goodwood and I'm just sitting there talking to my kids. I'm actually like super tired. Yeah. Like, I could probably like lay down on the bench and fall asleep, but when I'm with my kids, I'm always live. I'm always like fun and happy, engaging, want to be with, I'm present. Right. And I started doing that. I go, hey, my middle name? And I can't remember the whole thing. I have to go back and reread the post, but he says something to me like, yeah, no, why the hell do I know your name? You're never around. I was like, what the hell? And I'm like, what do you mean I'm never around? And my daughter says, I'm like, yeah, Dad, like, like we barely see you. And then he like looks at me and he's being funny. And he goes, I know Kevin Hart better than I know you. Bro, it was like a sledgehammer. I almost started bawling. But I was like, dude, Mark, keep it together. He's just being funny. And I was like, in my head so bad, my wife could feel it. She like reaches over and like grabs my arm and being like, it's okay. Like the situation, I was just like, am I really absent? And I was like going through like my whole life as fast as I could in my head. And it was like blowing me up. And I was like, hey guys, I gotta get head home. I'm gonna take a shower real quick. And they're basically done with dinner, right? So, but I kind of left early. I told my wife, I gave her my credit card. I'm like, hey, just pay, tip them, whatever. And dude, I'm in the car home and I'm just bawling, just driving home, like, what the freaking, and it's weird because I normally grab a couple kids and throw them in the car with me. So they were like, why is Dad all blah, blah, blah. I get home and I take my clothes off and I'm sitting on the toilet, before I take a shower, I'm on my phone. I just feel like writing that post, like, in my mind right now, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of wrote it with a little bit of a funny slight to her, like, oh, my kid thinks he knows Kevin Hart better than me. And I'm in the shower and I'm just like taking the shower and I'm like cleaning myself up, blah, blah, kind of going quick. And I'm like, dude, Mark, go take that post down, dude. That's the most self-serving. Put a like on this post ever, dude. Like, whatever. I might have been in the shower for 15 minutes at most, right? And I go back to it, dude, I'm almost getting emotional thinking about it. I bet I had 50 text messages, voicemails, DMs up the wazoo. You wouldn't believe it, dude. Guys are like, this is hitting me so hard. This is hitting me so hard. Like, thank you for sharing this, blah, 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 blah. It was over 100 interactions. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave it there then. And then I started thinking, I didn't even read them all. I mean, it was like 10 o'clock by this time, maybe 10:30, I need to go to bed. I get up the next morning early and I'm just like reading through all these things and I just start pouring at everybody. I'm like, yeah, man, being dad's hard. You know, like, if this helped you, great. If it didn't, you know, like whatever. I'm just like kind of, and dude, it like all the guys in the walk group, I had my brothers were hitting me up. Like it was wild. The actual reach of that post was like, it's probably the most impactful thing I've ever put out. And it's funny that you say that because it's probably every 2 or 3 weeks to this day that people are like, hey, you remember we wrote that thing about Kevin Hart? And I'm like, yes, I remember that thing. And it's like, it's funny that post is like, if you know the whole story around it, it is such my psyche around my kids. Like I was saying, like I will not be caught sleeping. And I was like, I mean, as I'm driving home, I'm coming up with things. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take them on trips. I'm going to leave work at noon every day and take them on a daddy daughter or a daddy son date. You know, I'm coming up with all this stuff. I'm like, I will not freaking fall asleep. And I don't know, man. It's just one of those things, right? I mean, you know, you love your kids like me. It's just.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think that there's two sides of it, right? Like I'm sure that in hindsight, and if your son like he knows you and spends way more time with you and you're a way more present, good dad than like he probably realizes it or realized at that time, you know? Yeah. But also we sometimes our perception may not always necessarily be real, right? Like there's a few times where I'm like, dude, I'm like the freaking father of the year, man. Like I'm the best father. And then my kid will say something like, yeah, you get mad at me and you're angry with me. And I'm like, what? Yeah. It kind of like catches you off guard and you want to get defensive about it, you know, but, and same thing with your wife too, right? Like a lot of times your wife will say something to you, I'm sure. And you're like, no way. And you want to get like defensive and like argue, but you're like, hey, your experience is not like I'm not able to dictate your experience and your perception, and perception is reality. Right. Yeah. And your kid at that time may have just been feeling a little bit like, maybe dad's been busy. He's out, you know, he's not super present around or whatever. And hindsight will always, I'm sure, be much more kind to you, but it's a chance for you to check in. And I'm sure you probably have course corrected even a little bit more. And it's an opportunity to be like, hey, what do you mean by that? You know, like what could I do to make you feel more? Cause that's not the case. And I've had to do that with my kids too, where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm Disneyland dad, you know, I'm father of the year. But then my kids are like, wait, you think I get mad at you? Or like, you think that like, you know, I love this one more than this one? Or like, what the heck, you know, how can I change that for you? And I think it's important to be self-aware, be willing to like ask those questions, you know, and then be willing to go course correct, right? Be willing to be humble enough to be like, hey, I may not be doing as good as I think here. If this is this person's experience, I'm going to go. And who does it matter more to than your kids and your wife, you know?
I had a guy in our group and he's going to get divorced. And I think he's going to go through with it now. And it's probably the best thing. I don't know. I'm leaving it up to him, right? And he was like, he was talking to me. It was on the phone. He was like, going on if I was going to be the best dad, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, dude, here's what you need. You want your kids to at your funeral, the first thing out of their mouth, say, my dad loved my mom. If they don't say that, you got some problems. Even if you get a divorce, you know, you're going to have to treat her with wild amounts of respect. You're never going to change the fact that that's their mom, right? And if you get divorced, it's going to really complicate your life because you still need to be able to, you still want your kids to say that, but it's going to have a massive asterisk next to it. And it led us down this really dynamic, interesting conversation, right? Because I really feel that way. Even if you get divorced, it's like you have to respect that woman. That woman let you into her body and created children. You know, it's a thing, right? And the more and when I said that to him, it was just flippant, right? It wasn't like I have this prepared speech for dudes that are getting divorced, right? And I think about it all the time. I'm like, shit, I do. I want my kids to be like, you know, thanks for coming to my dad's funeral. My dad loved my mom. Boom. Like, that's it. And then whatever they say after that, it's great. He took me fishing. He took me to Disneyland. He was always there for me. I was in this trouble, and he was funny, and he showed up and entertained my friends. Like, all of that is only good if they can say that about the mom, at least in my opinion. And yeah, I've said it a lot. I've actually used it in a lot of different times with people. And I'm like, guys, this is the most important thing, man. Your kids need to know that. That's where their safety lies.
I think that's number one, right? Because it does, the safety and that acknowledgement, but also builds that future success for them to have a successful relationship too, even if that relationship failed, then to know that you can overcome that. But I think the other thing I would want my kids to know is that I love them unconditionally.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, no matter what my kids could do, that would make me love them less than what I do.
I love that. That's a theme in our home too. You know what's funny too is because I feel like I've been loved conditionally by my parents, and that might be a perspective thing, because I like to be very fair to my parents. My parents are very good parents, but when you feel that way and then you look at your own kids, it's like, okay, I got to get this message across too. Like, you guys really are loved unconditionally. Because I said the same thing. I'm like, guys, listen. And I've kind of framed it in the fact that, like, listen, if you get in trouble and you know your dad's going to be pissed, you still let me know about it. Because if you compound these problems down the road, then they get out of control, and then I can't keep you safe. So if you go and bust into a car, steal something, do something real stupid, right? Catch yourself in the moment, get a hold of me. You're still probably going to get punished at some level, but you're not going to blow your life up. And then I'd give them some examples. And as they get older, I kind of break it down to them a little bit better, right? Because our number one rule in our house is honesty.
Yeah.
I can deal with anything you guys do as long as you're honest with me. And I've told this to my kids too. I said, I also understand you are going to not be honest with me. So if you are not honest with me, just fess up later on. There's no good timing. Just bring it to me. We will deal with stuff with the cloak of honesty around it. And then we know where we sit with each other, and we can deal with stuff. By the way, kids, one day this is your life. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're on my clock till you're probably 25. And they're like, okay, Dad, I mean, they're all still kind of little. Oldest only 13, right? But it's like, I just feel like, those kids in high school, right? They start going down that path, and then they start sprinting down that path because they're like, well, I can't talk to my parents about this. They're gonna blow my life up.
Yeah.
As they literally commit suicide down this crazy ass path.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say for sure, for whatever reason, whatever we did differently, but I would never in a million years have told my parents a lot of the stuff that my kids will tell us, you know? And so I'm super grateful and happy about that, and whatever we've done to foster that, to the point where sometimes I'm like, geez, I don't even know if I really want to be, I'll act cool about it. That's kind of awkward, but whatever, let's just handle it. And ultimately you end up really appreciating it, and it's great to have those open, frank conversations, and that your kids trust you like that, and that they have that honesty, because it is super, super important. Because the second that your kids start, lying to you and hiding stuff from you, it does escalate, and they do feel really isolated and really lonely, and the shame and the guilt starts kicking in. And that's like you just mentioned, that's the fast track for a lot of those kids to go off the rails, because we know a lot of those kids. Maybe we were those kids,
right?
Right.
And, absolutely. Part of us were, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, parenting studies turns out, if you have open, good relationships with your parents, it helps prevent a whole lot of potential problems, right?
Yeah. Another thing I teach my kids, turn this into parenting hour, is I say to them, I'm like, guys, listen, when you lie, you're most likely going to get away with it. And I said, that's where the problem is, because you start thinking that people are going to believe your lies. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, Dad. I'm like, you got to not lie. You have to make that a habit. Now, you don't need to over tell the truth either. Over the next 10 years, we'll figure out the balance for you, right? But when you lie and you get away with it, it gives this falsehood that I can lie. And I even go into the fact where I go, listen, there's a point, because there's people who lie to me all the time. And it offends me because they think I'm stupid enough to believe it. But I'm also at the point where I don't call them out either. And all I do is put you on the shelf because I know you're a liar, but we're never having a confrontation either, because it's not worth my time, because I'm just not going to go into it.
Because you're a liar, yeah.
Right, because you're a liar. And I go, that is a real thing in this world, you guys. Don't be a person who lies and gets away with it and then lies and have people disregard you. And the funny thing is most people don't even realize, I mean, the people that get disregarded, they're like almost ignorance is bliss and don't get it. Well, I don't get why I'm like out of the table. It's like, because you're a liar.
Yeah.
You know, why not you invited to this stuff? Because they can't trust you because you lie. Mm-hmm. You lie by omission, you lie by commission, I think is the other one, right? Where you're being direct about it. It's an interesting dynamic, right? Because our people are not stupid. People in groups are stupid, but people individually, like you just kind of feel that stuff. Like you know when someone's lying to you. And you know, you might investigate a little bit and be like, that doesn't seem right. And then the people double down. And you're just like, whatever, bro. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll get back with you. Oh man, I'm not going to invest in that.
It's funny too, because your kids think that they can lie to you and like that you don't know, right? That you haven't raised them from the very, very beginning. Like you don't know every twitch of their face and every like tone of their voice, you know, and you're like, or like, what's wrong? Like something like, no, nothing's okay. Well, it's this, and this, you know, it's like, I know you better than you know yourself. You're not going to lie to me and get away with it, you know?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Well, dude, I didn't know we were,
where we at?
Hour 5.
Boom.
I didn't know we were, good parents. Just kidding. I think you're a great dad.
Dude, I think you're a great dad. That's why we like each other.
Yeah, man.
I'm telling you, there's a vibration or an energy or whatever foo-foo thing you want to call it, right? There really is. Like when you get around guys who think similar, like their kids are important. And not only that though, too, like I think part about being a good dad is you don't let your kid be a shithead either. Yeah. You know, so like you get some of these parents and their kids are like absolute shitheads, and it's like it's a Jordan Peterson rule. Mm-hmm. Actually, I said this, one of the guys asked me what I do to parent, and I go, I literally follow Jordan Peterson. So I don't let my kids do anything that I don't like. And they're like, oh, you know, I'm like, because they go into society and do things that people don't like, and then the people don't want to be around them. Yep. The other part of that is like the indicator that your kid is doing well socially is that he has friends and that people like to be around them. If you have a kid that nobody wants to be around, you have a problem. Mm-hmm. And you've got to go fix that. And you better fix it early, because if you figure out on them at 14, ain't going to happen. Because, you know, we all had those friends in high school, right? Yep. It's like they're kind of in the group, but they're kind of idiots, and they're dishonest, and they do dumb shit, and you're just like, eh. Yeah. You know, and especially at, you know, teenage years, they're not mature enough to have those conversations with their friends.
Or realize it. Yeah,
or maybe even realize
be aware of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun having good dad hour.
Yeah, it is. It's way different than I expected. I didn't know what to expect on the President McCormick podcast, and I got into COVID, politics, and parenting. Yeah. What a mix.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Well, the only reason why we talked about COVID is because you got freaking hardcore banned, which is kind of funny, but also kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's like whatever, right?
Worth it.
Yeah, worth it. I believe that. Yeah, I believe that for sure. I mean, I'll give up a lot of stuff, dude, to be honest. Yeah. You know, that's why I sleep well.
Same, dude. Sleep great. Yeah. Confident in who I am and what I believe.
So, hey, I'll do this with everybody. What's your best 2 minutes of advice?
I think
I gave a lot of it today, but yeah.
I think it just kind of depends on the topic, but I'll tell you my 2 minutes of advice right now is you know, live your life for yourself. Live your life for, you know, don't get caught up in who you think your identity is or what you think your identity is. I've been reading that book, The Untethered Soul. Not sure if you've read that yet, but essentially don't get caught up in too much and you and your ego being attached to something or what defines you, your business success, your physical success, and just be happy, just enjoy life, live for yourself, live for your experiences. And I think probably the best advice was what we talked about being leaders in the community, right? If you want to make a change, if you want to affect something, then start with your own life. Start with living a life that's worth following, live a life that's worth imitating, and you know, spread that out to your immediate sphere of influence and kind of work on from there, because the only way we're going to change things is collectively from the ground up, not from the top down. So I think that was 2 minutes.
Perfect, dude. I know I always say 2 minutes and people are like, well, that was only 30 seconds. And I'm like, well, it's just kind of a title.
Yeah.
Give me your best advice. I'll probably switch it up. So
edit it out.
Yeah. No, there's no editing here, bro. There's no editing. I've only edited, you know, you're probably like the 130th or 31st.
Yeah, I told you I was
episode.
offended. I was like, fell this far down the depth chart.
Well, didn't you want me to be good at this before I freaking Not that I'm like amazing.
No.
at it,
You've
but-
had awesome guests. A lot of our buddies.
No, it's funny, dude. It's like you're not the first person to say that, by the way.
Oh, what? About falling down the depth chart?
Yeah, we're like, dude,
Now everybody
for
after
like
me
6 months, I'm like, bro, it's
Now
not like
everybody after
yeah.
me is going to be like, the benchmark. Yeah.
No, it's
He's
fun,
really scraping the bottom of the barrel now. That's what I felt like, Mark.
Well, and I've like, dude, it's funny picking guests for a podcast, right? Because I have thousands, honestly.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people I could bring on, and it's like, I've never brought someone on for, well, that's not 100% true. My first 4 people that I brought on, which one was Jimmy, Nick, Heather Dees, and Paul Kruger, right? They're the first 4 that I had on.
Yep.
Yeah, and I brought them on. I was going to have them all on. I'm good friends with all of them, but they kind of had a little bit more social media presence, and I was like, oh, maybe this will be good to kind of kick the thing off. Outside of that, which all of them are recorded before I even released any of them, right? Outside of that, it's just like if it comes to me, you know?
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm like on Instagram. I invited you because I saw a post. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to have Mike on. Why haven't I had him on yet? Boom. And I'm like, hey, you want to come on? This is the dates. And sometimes it works with people.
It wasn't even a
sometimes
post
it doesn't.
about COVID because I'm pretty much off that. these
No, it
days.
wasn't. No,
I'm on and off.
Honestly, I think it was you and your wife have been somewhere recently, right?
We went to Italy.
Yeah, it was
or
your Italy
Spain.
trip.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Always going somewhere.
Yeah.
Trying to think where we've been recently. Dude, we've had some good adventures already together.
Dude, we have.
Iceland, Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both were dope, dude. Both were really dope.
Yep.
I still have my tracksuit. My wife just hung it up the other day.
Dude, I was wearing mine at our Jackson Hole Ludus last weekend.
Were you?
Yeah, I look like a European gangster. I love it.
I'm down 35 pounds since we did Spain. So I'll actually fit in that just a little bit better. Be a little baggy on me now.
Dude, they're Euro style, Euro fit.
Yeah.
Nice and slim.
Yeah. Gotta get some brass knuckles and punch someone.
Yeah. Peaky Blinders or Snatch.
Yeah, Snatch. Oh, freaking love Snatch, dude. Dude, I served my mission in Scotland, right?
You did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I came home, I watched Snatch. I think I watched it before.
Yeah, I came
Pretty
out
sure
before.
I did.
Yeah.
Came in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So I watched it in the 90s and I was like, oh, this is hilarious, you know? And then I came home from my mission and I was like, oh, I missed 35% of what they were saying.
Yeah.
Now it's really funny.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that compared to because I actually taught them. I taught gypsies. They're all named John Smith, guys, girls. So we'd get like Book of Mormon requests, right? We'd pull up to these camps and it's like, what the hell is this? And it's just like that, tents and caravans and, you know, maybe a house every now and again, maybe.
Yeah.
And they smoke. They always
smoke?
smoke. Oh, dude. Unless they're
Pikeys?
asleep. Yeah, pikeys. Yeah. So I'd be like, is John Smith there? And they'd circle you up and be like, blah, blah, blah. And you'd be like, it's like unnerving, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, someone ordered this. We're just here to drop it off.
Yeah.
You know, you have someone scream from behind a tent, you Mormons, you know,
Yeah.
like, I was gonna say see, been in Mexico too many times. Like you know, they come rolling down. You're like, would you like this thing? You know, like yeah, we'll take it. They take it, disappear, and you're just like, okay, you all walk off the property. It's like the weirdest thing in the world. But yeah, it's fun.
Alrighty, man. Gypsies. And scene.
Yeah, and scene. All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. See you, buddy.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.